Hi, we are live, we are live, we are live. Right here at Nairobi, Kenya, East African time. This is 5 minutes to the top of the hour. We promise you that this show will start a bit earlier because our guest tonight is loaded and needs to be downloaded. Now, we need to download him and he needs to download himself. So I don't want any of you to say, oh, we missed out of this because you told us 8 p.m. So we are just making sure that we are live few minutes earlier, exactly at 8 p.m. I will introduce him. Now I can just be engaging him on an informal talk. Then as soon as it is 8, I will engage him. So right there, those of you who are already watching us, I want you to share it on your Facebook quickly. Share it on your Facebook, like my page, follow me. Those of you on YouTube, I welcome you to the show. Subscribe to my page. You can also pick up the link from your YouTube and pass it on to all the WhatsApp contacts you have. Let everyone know what's going on. Life is about sharing. Life is all about sharing. And if you cannot share what you are not spending a coin, when we are on social media, you are not spending anything. The only thing you do is to use your finger that God has given you free of charge and tap on share, tap on subscribe. Or, if you cannot be generous with what you have not invested a coin into, I wonder if you can actually give the world what you have sacrificed for. So, so please make sure you share. Let all your fans be equipped. We are living in a time where people are going through a lot. I read the newspaper in Kenya today, and I saw a certain bank that said today they are going to send home hundreds of their staff. And this is one of the banks we bank with. We have been banking with them for several years. And today's paper says they are sending home several of their staff. We are living in a very turbulent time. And I don't even know how it's going to end. So those of you that have jobs, don't just rest on the shore. Don't just think, oh, I have it, I still have it. The reason why you need to listen to what we say on this show is to see how to maintain what you have, to see how to contend for what you have. Because you may have it today, tomorrow it's not in your hands. So make sure that you hear this. Maybe somebody else who is going through a lot of emotional trauma right now can actually hear what we are saying and receive hope, that there is hope for the hopeless. There may be some that may have to actually create jobs for themselves because of this pandemic. They need to launch out and create jobs for themselves. So they need to hear, how do I also step out by faith and begin something for myself? So I want to welcome all of you and give you a few seconds to share as I welcome my brother on this platform, not formally now, welcome him formally in the next 3-5 minutes. Then let's just chat, bro. Kelvin, how is Lagos? The news we are hearing
Lagos.
here, yeah. We are praying for our country, Nigeria. How is Nigeria?
I actually think that Nigeria is very fine. I think many of the news that we are hearing are positive news. They may manifest as something negative, like riots, like people being killed. But I think when we look at the motivation behind what is happening, the desire for change, the desire to hold leadership accountable, the desire to, the pride that the young ones have about the nation. I've never seen as many Nigerians, wrapping themselves up in the flag. You would think that with all the challenges they've had with being Nigerians, that they would feel slightly odd about, their relationship with the country, but it's been very positive. So everything is motivated from a good place. Now, has the process been seamless? Has it been hassle-free? No. And that's some of the things that we're hearing. But when you look at what is underlying that, we can only be very excited about the change that is about to happen in our life. in our country.
I agree completely with you. There is no change without sacrifice. There is no change without sometimes pains. Even when God wanted to change the world, he had to give his only begotten son. Imagine he
Exactly.
had to give a ransom to bring a change, to bring a change. So when we look at what we are seeing in Nigeria right now, our own is to pray that there will be a glorious end, that it will not end the way
Amen.
that people go on the street, vandalize property, destroy lives, waste lives, and at the end we go back to square one. Our prayer is that even
Yeah.
the blood of the people, innocent young people, that their blood has been shed. May the Lord look upon that kind of sacrifice and bring the change that we need desperately and urgently and timely in Nigeria. So we are praying along, and we are praying that God will arise on behalf of us. Because I can tell you, Nigeria is a great nation. Nigeria is a great nation and extremely significant in God's agenda. Do you believe that?
I do believe absolutely, absolutely. That's prophecies have been consistent, over the years, even when it was more negative, more dire than what you see today. I remember as far back as in the 80s when people were queuing for essential commodities, especially queuing for food. The prophecy was always consistent about this, that there will be this difficult period, but at the end of that difficult period, there will be a renaissance, in the country. And there's been specific prophecy about 2020 has been the trigger for that change. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have been waiting expectantly for, so when is this change going to happen? So when we heard about the youth, putting their foot down, saying, "Look, you can't keep brutalizing us." When they started holding government accountable, we knew that this is the birth of something positive. So I am absolutely, I mean, we regret the loss of lives, we regret the destruction of property, we regret the anarchy and the breakdown of law and order. But one needs to look beyond that insightfully and discern these times. These times are actually very positive times.
I agree, and I am praying and trusting God that it will be better Nigeria. That at the end of the day, it will be better Nigeria, because when you have leaders that are not accountable, it's a big headache in every sphere of
Yeah,
life, not just politically, but both in church, in organizations, everywhere. So I think the younger ones are yearning for a change. The younger ones are yearning for a change. But I believe that the show we are doing tonight will also prepare them, because it's not just yearning for a change. Then some of them will be given the leadership, but they'll be worse than the predecessors. Because sometimes we cry for change, but when we find ourselves in leadership, we mess up. We don't do anything different. So I pray that as we cry for change, we should also prepare to be the change agents ourselves, and not
absolutely.
change catalysts only. Because what is happening now is that we have changed catalysts who are saying we need change. But where are the change agents that are already agents of change themselves, because they are changed? You cannot lead, you cannot bring change when yourself is not transformed.
Absolutely, absolutely. The big problem I think we have is the issue of models, role models for our youth. People they look up to. I think the preceding generations have failed today's youth in some ways. Because I mean, you look around, there are narratives around, oh, to get ahead, you need to cheat, you need to lie, you need to steal, you need to be, quote unquote smart. But that's not true. There are so many people who have built enduring lives, anchored on on values that are eternal, that are strong. So the reality is that we have a remnant amongst the youth. It's very exciting to see. You see them in churches, you see them in groups. They are sizable. They are significant. They are anchored on the right things. They have a vision for the future. They understand their roles and they are desirous of pushing change. What I like about these millennials, this new generation, is the desire not just to talk about it. A lot of my generation talked a lot about the need for change, but we didn't do much. But this generation is willing to not just conceive change, but will actively bring it about. I like that about them. That said, though, there are many young ones who unfortunately believe that, the only way ahead is to embody all these negatives. These are the people that I'm hoping that platforms like this can reach, because we need to get them to understand that they don't need to be that. That character is not obsolete. That principles are not outmoded. That they can anchor their lives on enduring foundational elements, and yet they will be successful. The thing is that they won't be successful for just a moment. They'll be successful for a long time, and they will have a positive impact on their generation. So that's why I'm very excited about what you're trying to do, Pastor Esther, and the platform that we have to communicate with this generation.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 5 minutes after 8 p.m. And I'm so delighted, I'm so glad to welcome all of you to the Keep It Real show tonight. On the show tonight is Mr. Kelvin Balogun, a notable African business leader with close to 30 years of work experience in strategic consulting, operational marketing, and general management. He is presently a senior partner and co-founder of Veraki Africa, a Pan-African business solutions and advisory company. Until August 2018, Kelvin was the president of Coca-Cola Southern and East Africa Business Unit. And before then, the president of Coca-Cola Central, East, and West Africa Business Unit. I will read the rest later. Kelvin is an avid golfer. He plays golf. He plays tennis, and is married to one of my friends, Joyce. I call her JB, and they are beautifully blessed with 2 children, adult children, a girl and a boy. Now, I want us to welcome Mr. Kelvin in a way that shows we are not jealous of his profile, of his CV. We are celebrating that CV. I've always said great people are never jealous of other great people. It is people with grasshopper mentality that puts up an attitude when a powerful profile is read. But colleagues, celebrate colleagues. So I know you on this platform tonight because you are important. You are a VIP. Why don't you give another our VIP a welcome clap offering? Yes, you. I want you to just spread on the social media a clap to a child of God that is making way in the corporate world, in the marketplace, and taking dominion according to Genesis chapter 1:28. We are supposed to take dominion wherever we find ourselves. So welcome him, and I also want to welcome all of you, our viewers. I'm excited that you are here tonight. Don't forget to share. Before we kick off, please share quickly. Touch your share button. Share as we begin immediately. Mr. Kelvin, you're welcome to Keep It Real Show. Keep It Real Show is a platform where we keep it real, using our life experiences and stories to change the narratives, the current narratives that are negative, inspiring the next generation, and of course empowering our current generation. So we use our own life stories that can be verified, that can be, we can check them out online anywhere, and we see that we are not giving people stories that we fabricated. That's why it's called Keep It Real Show. So I welcome you to this online show, and I want you to tell us who is. I have given a profile, but who is Mr. Kelvin Balogun? Welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Esther. It's a real privilege to be on the show. You know, I've been a fan of it. I didn't get to hear about it until about a month or so ago, but I caught up on the past episodes, and in so doing, I came to really appreciate what God is doing through you and through this platform. So it's a privilege and honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Who is Kelvin Balogun? Well, he's a child of God, a product of his hands and his grace. I was born into a family of five, 4 boys and a girl. I'm the second. The girl, unfortunately, we lost her last year, was our youngest. It was a middle-class family. My parents are now late. But my father, even though he's from a humble background, had an event transform his life. He won this Commonwealth scholarship, so got a chance to go to the UK and do his university studies. He came back, joined the railways, initially as an engineer, and then migrated into the commercial area. I think he retired as a commercial director or senior commercial manager. My mom was an entrepreneur and a house manager. I call her, not a housewife, a house manager, but an amazing entrepreneurial lady. So we grew up in a Christian home. I studied. I had all my education for the most part in Nigeria. Only my MBA in the United States. My first 2 schools, primary and secondary, were in mission schools based in Lagos. And I went to university to read engineering in the western part of Nigeria called Ife. I went to Obafemi Awolowo University. I read metallurgical and materials engineering. I graduated second class upper. I'm going to come back to some of my experiences in the university because I think there's some very important lessons there. Anyway, right out of school, I did my national service and then joined, I was recruited by an American firm called Arthur Andersen. I was recruited into their consulting department as an analyst. And over the next 10 years, I held different roles. I grew very fast. And at the end of 10 years, I was a senior manager and the head of the consulting of the strategy unit. And after 10 years, I felt I'd had enough of advisory business. I wanted to get my hands dirty, actually running a live organization. So I became restless. I started looking for organizations that gave me what I would call a brick and mortar experience as opposed to an advisory experience. So thankfully, Coke came calling, and I had the opportunity to join Coke. I joined Coke in Nigeria as the head of their strategy and business development unit. Soon after I joined Coke, globally there was a program called Coca-Cola University, which picked, I would think, very promising executives from all around the world, and then take them through an executive development program. I was blessed to have been picked from Africa. I think there were 2 of us from Africa. It was myself and there was an Egyptian. So for the next about a year, we were based primarily in the States, but we had what I think an amazing experience just learning the Coke business. And at the end of it, we were asked, where do you want to go back and continue your career? The allure of being in the States was strong, but I made a choice to come back to Africa. I'm going to come back to choices later. I made a choice to come back to Africa. I felt, but I decided that I didn't want to be in Nigeria. I wanted to be anywhere in Africa other than Nigeria. I felt I'd learned enough about Nigeria. I was given my first assignment running Horn of Africa, my first operating assignment running Horn of Africa, based in Kenya. I think I did that for a year, and I was promoted to then become the country manager for Kenya. From there, franchise manager for Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and then from there, I think I became the strategy director for my business unit called East and Central Africa Business Unit. I became the strategy director. I did that for a while. Most of these assignments ran for between 2 and 3 years. After that, I was headhunted to come and run the business to be the general manager. I think before that, the general manager for East Africa. Then headhunted to become the managing director for Nigeria. And then from there, became the president for Central, East, and West Africa. And then after that, my last assignment, the president for Southern and East Africa, based in Johannesburg. So after 20 years, it seemed like a good time. The consulting experience was about 10 years, 20 years running operations across Africa. I felt it was a good time to take on a new challenge. I co-founded with a few friends of mine, Veraki Africa, which is focused on driving unique business solutions to African conglomerates, as we call them. It's been a year and a half. I run the ventures part of it. It's been a year and a half, and it's been phenomenally successful. We're very grateful to God. So that's been my journey over the last 31, 32 years.
Wow. Some profiles can be quite harassing. Some profiles can be quite harassing. Our fans are saying, my goodness, what kind of profile? This profile is serious. This profile, somebody says it's too much. Somebody say, what a profile. Powerful CV. There are profiles that are harassing. There are profiles that are intimidating. And I thank God that this profile is from a kingdom seed. Kingdom seed. Because I remember when I gave my life to Christ in 1984, my parents were angry and mad at me. Why? Because then the mentality was that people that were born again were not doing well. Anyone that was born again must have been a dropout, because there was a mindset then that we are preparing for heaven, so we should not be of any earthly relevance. You just you just wake up in the morning and be singing hallelujah, Jesus, where are you? Have you reached this place? We are going home. So you are of no value to your family, you have no value to yourself, you have no contribution to your community, you are nobody. And most times when we see people who have achieved this kind of profile, we even think they are sinners, that why are you wasting your time building this kind of a profile, my friend? When we are going to heaven, are you really going to heaven? But I thank God that the narrative has changed over time, over the years. Today, it's an honor to be a child of God. I mean, it's an honor, because we could see people like you who are born again. You're not ashamed to declare your identity. You started with, I am a child of God. And this is the way everybody I have hosted started with, I am a child of God. That is their first statement. So we are not ashamed to declare publicly our identity. And I thank God for that. Now you have built a career for the last 30-something years. And yesterday, on Friday, when we did a little preamble, you said something that carries a lot of weight. You talked about values-based life. Can you explain what you mean by somebody living values-based life and how that can shape our careers.
Yes, you know, I was very fortunate that I was born into parents that into a family where the parents were actually amazing role model. You know, my introduction to a values-based life was actually through my dad and later my mom. You know, let me give you a small story about how it actually came about. Um, you know, my father used to work for the railways and he was in charge of the ports operations. So I used to remember those days. Part of his role was to allocate coach resources, you know, to people, and with that, they will be able to get goods from the south to the north. And apparently, these coach resources were limited, you know, and they were highly in demand. So we used to, growing up, we were quite used to situations where almost every evening somebody would bring something to the house, you know, and that was how we grew up. They would bring something. It could be clothes, it could be, I mean, something, and they would bring it. And we learned from my dad that if anybody brings anything, you are not to take it into the house. Tell them to take it away. But if they insist, make sure they drop it outside. They should not enter into the house. So some people will insist and drop it outside. And we would make sure we don't touch it because we knew the drill. Once my father got back and he sees it, who is this from? You know, and we tell him, before he would not stop, he would turn around, he would put it in his boot and take it away. So from there, I learned that, and I'll ask my mom, why is this always happening? Say, well, these are bribes, you know, and your dad is very principled around that, you know, that you don't get jobs and then, sorry, let me put this, you don't get jobs from God and then use it to enrich yourself. That was what we were explained. So you don't get jobs from God and then use it to enrich yourself. Who does that? So we got to know that there are principles that people can revolve their life around, and there are choices that flow from those. But what really made it personal for me, I think I was about 7 or 8, and at that time there's this amazing bicycle. I don't know if they still have it. It is called the chopper bike. Well sought after. If you had one, you'll be the star of your neighborhood. One day I came from school and I found 2 chopper bikes outside. You know, apparently somebody figured out, well, if he won't accept his own gifts, maybe he will accept for his children. And I remember I stood there, I sat next to the chopper bike, staring at it, waiting for my dad to come. And I was saying, maybe we'll make an exception this time. And then he came, and of course, he didn't even ask any questions with the chopper bike and it went. But it was a very personal experience for me as an 8-year-old or 9-year-old. I could understand it, but I could see the choice that one needed to make. And so when he got back, he said to me, he could see I was disappointed. He said, you know, what did you learn about this? And I explained to him, you know, it is wrong to take bribes. So yes, it is wrong to this. I explained it and he nodded. He patted me on the back. He said, also, remember whose child you are. Remember whose child you are. You know, we're not thieves. We're not, you know, so that defined my identity. All through my life, you know, I always remember and when I became born again, that statement had an extra dimension. If I didn't remember, so my earthly father upholds all of these acts, but my heavenly father even more. So I was always remembering so what are principles? You see, to be successful in a career, people always ask me, so Kelvin, how do you become successful in a career? I said, people always have to answer 3 questions about you. Number 1, do you know what you're doing? You know, and that relates to your technical competence, your functional competence, your leadership skills. Do you know what you're doing? You And then the second thing is, can you trust him? And can you trust him is relate to your character, your values, your principles. And then lastly, does he care? That relates to your compassion, your authenticity, and things like that. So when you talk about principles, you are talking about, can we trust him? Can we trust him? You will not do business with someone you can't trust. You will not put responsibilities in the hands of someone you can't trust. And you can't say, well, I want to be trusted in one situation and another, and choose to do something different in another. No. I say principles are like lighthouses. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Lighthouses are things that in the dark will tell ships where the land is.
Yeah.
Now you can't say, how come this lighthouse is here? Surely the land can't be here. The land is still further away. You can tell yourself all manner of stories. But the truth of it is that if you ignore the lighthouse in terms of where the land is, you will run aground. And values are like that. Values and principles are like that. When you throw a ball up, it will come down. It's a law of gravity. So if you want to build a career, in answering the question, can he be trusted? It's not one day you answer that. Everything you do, every time you do it, answers that question for people. And that's what I decided very early on, that I would choose a life of integrity, of honesty, of responsibility, of accountability, of stewardship, of perseverance, of hard work. So when they call my name, I want people to associate it with a brand. I don't need to be there to defend myself. I want people to say, well, I have worked with this guy for 5 years, for 7 years, for 10 years. This is who he is. Because it's not what we project ourselves at, it is what we do. They say, we are what we do repeatedly. Stephen Covey said that we are what we do repeatedly. He said excellence or success is not an action, it's not an act, but a habit. And there has to be congruence between the kind of person you want to become, the kind of outcome you want to have, and the decisions you make every day, the choices you make every day. They say there's another one that said that if you have a thought, it generates an action, an act. If you have a series of actions, it generates a habit. If you have a collection of habits, it generates a character. And if you have a character, it informs your destiny. So there's no way you can have purpose without anchoring it on actions that are consistent with that purpose. So that's my story about how I imbibe the principle-centered life. And every morning when I pray to God, I always ask him, give me the strength today not to disappoint you, not to fail you, not to discourage your children. My biggest worry is that I might do something that will cause people to become cynical, to become to have less faith in people who say they are centered around Christ. Because if I've done that, then I've really, really done a major disservice to the kingdom of God.
Thank you so much. As you are talking, somebody is asking that this is the value system they grew up in their generation with, and now he's asking what has gone wrong. What has gone wrong with us? Because from what you have said, even before you got born again, your parents, especially your dad, put into you values that will shape your tomorrow without you knowing that one day you will be the president of Coca-Cola in those regions. When your dad was putting those things into your hands in your life, I'm sure he was saying, this is the legacy I want to leave for my children. Honesty, integrity, hard work, perseverance. and you sure that he kept telling you, we are not family of thieves. We are not family of thieves. In other words, in this family, we are contented. So the values you have given us tonight, please, everybody watching us, I want you to note it down. Your technical competence, what you can do, what can you achieve, what can you do, what are your skills, your technical competence. Number two, can you be trusted? Can people wake up any day and say, we can trust this guy, we can trust this lady? Can you be trusted? And not in one area, but not in another area. No, holistic trust. Number three, your character, your compassion, your care. Do you really care? You know, as you were talking, Mr. Kelvin, I remember when you took us for a training at Crown Plaza Hotel. I had talked to you
That's
and I
true.
had said, I want you to train our solution center ministers, because that we cannot have somebody like you in our list as a minister and our profiles are not up there in the corporate. And it was a fantastic one-day training. We went to Grand Plaza. It was fantastic. We ate, and you thought and thought, and our ministers, we had a lot of rapport. We appreciated each other. I long for that day, that kind of a day to come again. We are the ministers of Solution Center. We take a 5-star hotel or 4-star, go there and get people like you to come back and keep on training us. Because I can tell you, in Solution Center, honestly, we are a brand. The little training our ministers and workers are getting from here and there, it has disciplined our lives. I can tell you that if there is one job that has values-based principle in leadership, you can trust Solution Center for that. Accountability and the rest of it. So thank you so much for sharing this value system with us. Your screen is a bit it's like losing your face. So as we keep on, you can adjust it a bit so that we can be seeing that your smiling face that smiles all the time. Very, very well. Yeah, maybe it's the internet, I don't know. But we like to get it. So as he's trying to adjust this, our fans, I want to let you know that next Sunday, we shall be hosting a powerful woman, an icon, who is my cousin, my blood cousin, my mom and her dad. We are okay, the dad is late. My mom is still alive, but I can still use the word our siblings. Dr. Ije Jidemma is an accomplished management consultant and professional, a psychologist, and a firm believer in the even distribution of God-given talents across the human race. She has worked in her various spheres of influence to elevate the African trajectory and narrative, bringing same to the global stage to enrich humanity. She holds a PhD in psychology with specialization in psychometrics from University of Lagos. She is the founder and chief executive of Leading Edge Consulting and has consulted for SMEs, indigenous companies, the public sector, multilateral organizations, international non-governmental organizations. She's also the managing partner of IRC Global Executive Search Partners, ranked as the fastest growing executive search alliance in the world, with footprints in over 90 cities of the world across 6 continents. In fact, her profile is how many pages here? That is the profile. And this is somebody I know very well. She's my cousin. And to let you people know more about her, I have talked to you that there was a company I worked for where the safe of the organization was in my custody because of trust. The company was a construction company, and you know what it means to be in the construction company where money was coming. Her late husband was the commissioner for public works in our state, Anambra State, the commissioner for public works. So there was this company that was doing roads everywhere. You will not believe that as that company hired me, they gave me the safe of that company, and the safe was right in my house. I was living with the safe, and they put military people to be my security. So 24/7, armed military people were guarding the house where I lived because of that safe. I have told you that story again and again. I put it in my book. It's in my book, one of my books. Now, next Sunday, you will have opportunity to interact with the wife of the man that gave me that job. Unfortunately, the husband is late. Engineer Jidema, he's late. So you will need to ask the wife, how have you survived as a single mother? I'm sure those of you that are single mothers, we really get ready for this show. How has she survived as a single mother, building her own career up to this present time that she is, and in the absence of her husband? So you cannot miss this particular show on Sunday. Keep it real with my own blood cousin. Then tomorrow is our prayer meeting, Turning Point, 8 p.m. Don't miss it. You are seeing the series of testimonies that are rolling out, coming in, streaming in virtually every week. You cannot miss it tomorrow. Let's pray together tomorrow, 8 to 9 on this same page. And lastly, don't forget Saturday, QED, the Gathering of Stars and Queens, physical meeting at Solution Center. This time we are beginning 2 o'clock because we allowed only 2 hours physical meeting. Not 3, don't come late kindly. 2 to 4, and come maintaining all COVID-19 protocol. Don't forget your prayer, our prayer with Daddy Prince on Friday, stand in the gap. I will still give a recap before we finish. Back to you, Mr. Balogun. You've talked about values-based lifestyle. Now, let me ask you, when you were in Solution Center, when you were there, I remember that you were part of the people when I said it was reduced poverty. I preached a sermon one day in church, and it was on poverty reduction. And as I was preaching, the Lord said to me, you need to open an account. And we opened an account, myself, yourself, Mr. Wellington, and a few of us, and we called it Breakthrough Account. Do you remember? Breakthrough Account. And we are putting our personal money there to help people. Do you remember?
I do remember, yes.
All right. So we put our personal money there to give people little money to do little businesses. At the end of the day, none of them succeeded with their businesses. Then I came back again to you and I said, Coca-Cola can help us. Because of your position, Coca-Cola can help us. So I came up with an idea that Coca-Cola can actually start little businesses for people. You gave me the privilege of bringing 6 people on board, and each of them, Coca-Cola gave them 35 crates of soda, paid rent for each of them for 6 months. Any shop they got, Coca-Cola paid 6 months and gave them 35 crates of soda. Do you remember that episode?
I do, yes.
All right. I want to ask you a question. We are Africans. You remember that all those things we did failed. The one we were giving them our personal money failed. The one Coca-Cola gave them, they all failed. They didn't even return empty bottles. They were not kind, not one. Till today, not one returned empty bottle. It was gone like that, and Coca-Cola could not continue. Do you know that that experience I had with you defined my dissertation for my doctorate? When I did my doctorate, I had to tell this story of Coca-Cola, that I was wondering why we failed in all our helps to make sure that the lives of people were upgraded. And my dissertation gave the answer, understanding the poverty perspective of an African. And we realized that we cannot change African until we change the mindset of an African. I want to ask you, in your work in Coca-Cola, you people try to open shops, do things like this. What can you offer to Africans today to say, look, my fellow men and women, we can't continue like this. We have to do something. What can you offer to Africans? Assuming today you are made a president and you are told, change Africa, what can you do?
Well, one of the things that I learned about why that project failed, and I'm going to say that, let me preface that by saying that, there are many projects like that. In fact, millions of projects like that, where Coke supported small and medium enterprises that worked brilliantly. And many of them in the same East Africa. In fact, in Kenya, there was a global program. I don't know if they still have it. It was called 5 by 20. It means, how do you empower 5 million women by 2020? And the whole concept was very similar to the vision that you had, Pastor Esther. And it was, how do we use our value chain to support, small businesses and make them grow? And I used to remember then, many came out of East Africa. As a matter of fact, one of the things that became a global study is the fact that a large proportion of African women are naturally entrepreneurial, and many of them may not even have formal education, but they understand economics. I don't know how they learned it. They understand economics, they understand their capital, they know how to project themselves, how to keep the capital, grow the capital, sell, buy, and so on. I think what was missing in the project we did was that if you give money to people who do not have a vision for what to do with it, it will be difficult for them to use it properly. What we found to be very different is if you pick on people who already are in the business, maybe they have a crate of Coke that they've sold for many years, but they haven't become bigger, or maybe they have a distributorship that is in a very small area. What we find is that when people already are committed to a life of entrepreneurship, if you empower them with resources, with opportunities, with challenges, they will thrive. The fact is that to transform Africa, we need small and medium scale enterprises. Everybody knows there are no jobs, formal jobs. Every day people give me CVs. I tell them, think about what you can do on your own, because there are very few places where you can get formal employment, unfortunately. There are just too many graduates for the opportunities that are there. But the opportunity for entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial activities across Africa is humongous, is significant. There are opportunities to serve one another. There are opportunities to make things. I used to think that the US is made up of all these big corporations that we know about. Apple, Amazon, and all these big corporations, GE, and so on, Coca-Cola. But the truth of it is, the strength of the US are in the small and medium-sized enterprises. Enterprises that hire 1,000 people, 2,000 people. That is the core of the economy of the US. My view is that when Africa is going to transform, it will be because we create an ecosystem where medium-scale enterprises can do well. Where they can get access to capital, they can get access to capability development, they can have access to markets, they can have mentorship, from people, and they can have a consumer base that is partial towards things that are produced in Africa. I believe once we have that, Africa will begin to transform. Africa will think about it today. If you are a company, a small business in Kenya, and through the Africa integration, regional integration that's happening today, you find that you can sell not just in Kenya, but you can sell in Ivory Coast, you can sell it in Nigeria, without major difficulty. It doesn't take a lot for you to become 3-4 times the size that you are today. We need to create platforms like that, across Africa. I think by doing that, you find that the entrepreneurial energy that's already there in Africa will find expression at a bigger and bigger scale.
Where does Veraki Africa come in? Because you have a wealth of experience. I mean, having been a president in Coca-Cola, having been, and I think there was a time was the managing director in Nigeria of Coca-Cola, something like that, travel all over the world with wealth of experience. Now you are a founder of your own organization. What do you want to see that organization achieve as a contribution or a contributor to Africa, the growth in Africa in terms of economy?
There are three ways my colleagues and I, when we were coming together to found this, three ways we looked at it. The first is on advisory. There are international companies that provide advisory services or consulting services, as they also call it. So your big corporates like your Coca-Cola, your Procter & Gamble and all that. But underneath all of those, there are African conglomerates like Dangote, companies that are massive in size, but they were created in Africa and they operate in Africa. You find that you don't have the right advisory capabilities to serve those companies. Veraki is positioned itself to be able to do that. So we work with a lot of the Africa conglomerates from an advisory perspective. The second thing we do is through technology. Technology will transform Africa. Here you are, I'm in Lagos, you are in Nairobi, we are speaking to the world. Technology has made that possible. Technology is removing the limitations of walls, it's removing the limitations of geography. The third thing is what we call ventures. That is what I actually lead. What is ventures? We do what we call venture building. We pick companies that we think can transform Africa. Let me give you an example. I have a company that is just about to launch. It's called Super TV. What is Super TV? Super TV is a company that will allow you access, watch whatever movies or educational content you want, and you won't need data. So normally, if you want to watch a movie or if you want to enjoy content, you can only do so by getting data and accessing the internet through your data. This company has a technology that doesn't require data and that gives you world-class experience. So what that's done is that it's brought the cost of accessing the internet down significantly. And why is that important? It's important because in Africa today, in Nigeria, for example, if you ask how many people are able to go on DSTV or to watch Netflix or watch any, it's less than 400,000 people in a country of 200 million. Why is that? The barrier is cost. Because of this company's technology, we want to democratize access to entertainment, democratize access to education, democratize so many things. So what we do with ventures is that we look for companies that have technology that will level the playing field, that will transform Africa, and we back them. We back them with capital, we back them with support, advisory support, we back them with technology support, we give them access to corporates that they need to become bigger, faster. So for example, we work with the likes of MTN, we work with the likes of Dangote, we give them access to these kind of corporates so that they can grow faster. I think by doing that, by venture building companies that have significant promise, bringing capital, bringing mentorship, giving them access to markets, you can transform Africa faster.
Wow, wow, that's interesting. This is a high-tech show that we are having. This chat is not for small children. I want to believe that our viewers, our fans, you are enjoying it. You are not saying, "I, this one is too tech. Mom has gone too high tonight." Yes, you cannot be talking to the former president of Coca-Cola, and we are talking of tortoise story and antelope, and how antelope pursued the bushmeat, and bushmeat cornered the rat. That's not the kind of story here. We are talking about transforming Africa, the Africa God wants to see. And we have the resources, the human resources, technology, technology. One of our ministers, Rispa, is saying technology, technology. Just yesterday, we had our annual workers meeting. I introduced one IT guru that we have made in charge of our technology and solution center. God uses him even when these bad people go to banks and do some things. Banks call him and he knows what to do to help. So I told him when I introduced him to the church, to the workers yesterday, I want you to empower our youth on IT. It's not enough for the youth to just be on social media chatting. Social media is just an aspect. It's not IT in its all. So they need to understand where the world is going. So I told him, please help to shape the heads of our youth on the area of IT. So you're talking about IT, you're talking about ventures and talking about mentorship and backing up companies that have potentials to bring a transformation in Africa. Your company backs them up. And you're talking about Dango. These are people that are taking the world by storm, and these are the kind of things we want to discuss in this place for great minds. I'm sure the people watching us tonight, if you have read the book From Good to Great, I love that book by Tim Collins. If you have read it, you will understand how you can transform a ministry, a company, a career, a business from being good to great. It's not good enough to just be a good ministry, a good organization. Until you become great, you are still in transition. And that's what we are talking about tonight. And Mr. Kelvin, I'm going to ask you two more questions that relate to career. Then we digress a bit or work with God, where we are going to wrap it up tonight. All right. I want to find out. You worked in several in some organizations before you settled for your own. What can you say you have learned from these organizations? Because you see, there are people who are quick to form their organizations, but they have nothing to fall back on that they have learned as experiences. Then there are people, when they are working for somebody in an organization, they are cutting corners here and there, and tomorrow they want to start their own, and they discover that their own is not standing. Can you share one or two lessons that you have learned in the world of uh, professionalism, where you served others before you started yours, and those things you learned are helping you in what you are building now?
The first thing that you have to realize, people think that Coca-Cola is different from like this small company that I've talked about. It's not. It's just a bigger form of the same company. What defines a company is the clarity of what it's about, what it wants to do. Having clarity. When I meet entrepreneurs, they tell me, "Oh, Kelvin, I have this idea. You know, this is what the idea is about. You know, I think I can make money with it." The first thing I want to find out from them is that how clear is that idea in their head. Then secondly, I want to find out how does it have a business model? How will this idea make money? Because people say, well, making money is that, well, money, companies die when they stop making money. When you hear that, oh, a company collapsed, what it basically means is that one day they looked at their account, they then didn't have money any longer. They couldn't pay salaries, they couldn't pay settle their bill. That's when companies formally die. So companies can be configured at three levels. One, clarity of vision. What is the company about? What are we trying to do? Strategy. how do we want to do it such that we succeed better than others we will compete with? Systems, how would we run the organization such that it can repetitively deliver service at a high standard? Systems. Culture. How would we know that we are all part of the same family? So that if I run into a Coke person in Atlanta and a Coke person in Lagos, they sound the same, they use the same language, they have the same values, they have the same focus, they even use the same tools. How do you create that unifying factor? It's called corporate values. So when you build organizations, you want to make sure that there is congruence at those levels. The vision is tied to the strategy is tied to the structure is tied to the systems, and the culture is the same all around. So whenever we have I mentor small businesses, the first thing I tell them is that we have to create that congruence, create clarity for your vision. Then we help them build their strategy. We build what we call business models to test that the strategy actually makes sense. Then we create the structure that will implement that strategy. Then we create the systems that will ensure that they can deliver the service on the customer. And then we take them through, very similar to that session we had at the hotel for the ministers. We create a session where they intentionally decide on the values that would make them unique. Now, once we define all of that, we introduce what I call intentionality, which is basically deliberately doing the same thing over and over that is consistent with what the organization stands for. What kills an organization easily is when you begin to cut corners. If somebody says, or if we say, for example, when we sell, the proceeds of sale will go into our account. And before we allocate that, we need to have decisions made about how we're going to deploy those resources. If I come tomorrow and say, well, this company belongs to me, I don't believe in all those systems. Just give me the money that you sold yesterday. And you collect the money and you go. And then you come the next day. How much have you sold today? Give it to me. Now, it may seem like, well, you are living well because the business is doing, you're selling, but that business will not grow. That business will not do well. That is what they call the Africa business. That's why, how many of those Africa businesses that we used to know those days are gone? Many of them are gone. Yet, the likes of Ford, the likes of Dangote, the likes of Guarantee Trust, these are companies formed by Africans like you and I, are still there today. Even though in some cases, the owners of those firms have retired and gone, their businesses remain. It's simply because they created clarity of vision, they created clear strategies, they built structure and systems. It was not a one-man show. And those systems is what made the organization to endure. So that's what we preach to these companies. Let's do it the way it's supposed to be done so that they can have the results that we know it can have. Don't cut corners. Don't say, well, I need that contract. I need to give, I'll give a bribe. Well, once you give a bribe, you are instituting bribes as an acceptable behavior in organization. Somebody else can go for another contract. Somebody that you don't know, say, well, our boss gave bribe the other time, I'm also going to give bribe. Before you know it, you become one of those organizations that give bribes. So is that what you want? An organization that gives bribe will not be here 10 years from now, will not be here 20 years from now. Even if it looks like it's making progress, you just watch it. Very soon they will shipwreck themselves because the same actions that seem to favor them are the ones that will undermine them. So you have to be very intentional about what your organization is about, the kind of organization you want to build. And every day, every decision, everything you say should reflect that. When I lead a business for Coca-Cola, I embody the culture of the organization. If the organization says we are not when we're a secular organization, meaning that it doesn't matter whether you are an atheist, you are a Muslim, you are a Hindu, we don't care. Now, I'm a Christian. People know I'm a Christian, I'm a Christ believer, and all that. But when I sit in that role as the head of that organization, I safeguard the values of the organization regardless of my own personal conviction. So if somebody comes to me and says he's a Muslim, I look at him with the same, I give him the same opportunity, the same attention, the same support as I would give to a Christian brother. Why? Because that is the values the organization has set. So if you build organizations the way they ought to be built, even when it's still small, you create the foundation that will make it go far. You know, if you want an organization to grow fast, you can cut corners. But if you want it to go far, you have to do it properly.
Thank you so much. You know, as you are talking, I remembered just an incident that happened not long ago. There is a license the church needed for something. And one of our staff, they told the accountant to I should sign a check for that. So I queried, why are we signing this check? Why are we using cash? Because we have a system we have put together. Anything beyond 5,000, we cannot give it out in cash. It has to be checked. And it's a policy we enforce seriously in the church. So I asked, why are we breaking this policy? It's a policy that Pastor Prince and myself put together and the parish council. So I asked, why are you telling me to sign a check that will be cash? And the fellow said, because the fellow they want to meet in city center, we prefer cash to facilitate, to make the license go faster. I said, what? I said, what? And they told you that and you accepted and you thought I will accept. I say we better wait for months to get that license and do it the right way. Because I didn't want anything that will introduce corruption in our system, introduce bribery in our system. We have never subscribed to that system and we are not ready to subscribe. So going through the right channel has made us to be on the queue for a long time. We would have finished this thing long time ago, but we are still on the queue. We have not received it, but I am much happier. And because that like what you said, I'm sure the people they are watching. I see they are online, they are watching us. These are the values we want to make this church, RCCG, very strong and solid, that there cannot be any cutting of corners in time to come, because the system and the structures are very strong, very transparent. Whether we are there or not, somebody can carry on and continue in that same spirit. And like you said, if you want to grow very fast, you can cut corners. If you want to go very far, you go through the system. I prefer to go far than to go. Yes, I prefer to go far in life than to grow fast. You know, this is not just all about organizations in the marketplace. Even in churches, there are churches that can grow like popcorn because they are manipulating and corrupting the word of God, making it so cheap and acceptable to people who want to live a compromising life. So what you see there is that the church is moving like a popcorn, pa, 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 pa. But I have been in the ministry to know it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. Even the people that are there, we notice and say, I don't think this is the kind of Christianity I want to have. And they will quit. So structures, value, principles are very important to build a lasting career and a lasting dream. And this is where we lack in Africa. And I am grateful that people like you, we have people like you in the kingdom, we have people like us in the ministry. And together, I believe that we can grow this Africa and make it that the Africa that God wants. All right. Our viewers, please share. I want to encourage you. I noted something down. The kind of teaching The kind of training and seminar that we are having tonight is the time that you need to go back and take your book and your biro. Go back to this particular show and write down, if you have a vision to go far in life, if you have a vision to impact your organizations, if you have a vision to build a business that will be a solution to the problem in Africa and in the world, go back and take notes as if you are in that Crown Plaza with us. That Crown Plaza hotel, the day he took us there, and we spent the whole day learning. Go and write down. It's interesting to know, Mr. Balogun, that somebody is watching all the way from Iraq. Iraq.
Wow.
Somebody has written, I am following from Iraq. So
wow.
I believe that we are talking about things that will help organizations. And I see so many things coming out of this. One more question about your career, then we digress for just like 10 minutes. Our audience, be patient with us. We will soon be done. When I was with you in your house, March this year, February this year, I came to Nigeria for Feast of Esther, and you and your wife graciously came to the hotel to pick me to come and see your palace. What God did in Nigeria, your palace. You know, as I'm talking now, I can see that house. And I only say it pays to serve God. It pays to serve God. God is not a debtor to any man. I remember that when we were chatting at the sitting room, you mentioned to me that the greatest joy you have after you left Coca-Cola was not in the monetary things and packages, but in one statement, in one word rather, that appeared in your exit, integrity. You say that is a word you will live forever to cherish. And that is what you want to hand over to your children. Can you say something about that word integrity? Integrity. And after you served many years, you exited with that honor of a man of integrity.
Yeah, I mean, I was very grateful to God, because when you, let me preface it a little bit, when you take on these roles, it takes a enormous grace not to make mistakes. You sign so many checks, you approve so many things. It's quite easy for things that were done with good intentions to maybe become something that you didn't intend, in the manner in which it manifested. So every time you take on a big role and you're dealing with this massive responsibility, at the back of your mind is always this: I hope I don't make a mistake that will soil my character and my reputation. So it was with a great relief and great joy that when my boss looked for something he didn't have to look for something to describe me, as I was leaving the company. He said, we all know that he's a man of integrity. I mean, it doesn't mean that there are no men of integrity. Most of my colleagues were people who imbibe this corporate organization values and all that. But for me, it made a particular impact on me, because so many of Africans who have had senior roles in companies ended up with something less than positive about their stewardship, and what it did was it closed the door on others that were coming behind them, because it fed the narrative that, oh, you can't trust them. Oh, it's a Nigerian, it's probably up to no good or something. So you feed those negative narratives. And I always pray to God all through my career that may I never, by my action, cause others to become more cynical or to make a shipwreck of their faith. To say, I used to think this guy is this, but see what he has done. You know, so for me, it resonated very, very strongly, and I thank God for it. The other reason why is because we live in a culture where people think that if you do things the right way, you are handicapping yourself. People think that if you want to get by, you can't help but lie or cheat or manipulate. But this, they have all this notion, but it is not true. The Bible said it. I've been young and I've been old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his children beg for bread. Meaning that living a righteous life does not confine you to penury, does not confine you. It's not true. It's the wrong narrative that this culture is building. And unfortunately, many of our young ones are, are taking it. They're saying that, oh, I have to be smart. I have to be. No, you don't have to. You have to hunker down, know that growth is a process. It's not an overnight thing. Commit to something that Lord has placed in your hands to do and do it well. Develop capability in that area. I talk about what is the foundation of success. You need to care, you need to be competent, and you need to have character. People need to be able to say he knows what he's doing. Oh, this guy is an amazing plumber. He did my work. He knows. Not that we say he's a Christian plumber, but he doesn't know his job. No.
A Christian plumber but doesn't know his work. I remember you told me that there is something you don't tolerate when you are in the panel of interview. You said, once somebody walks in your interview place and the fellow begins with "I am born again," you say, "I don't want to hear that."
I want your behavior. When people look at you, they need to know that there's something strange, different about this person. But being born again is not an excuse for lack of excellence.
Correct.
We have an excellent spirit in us. And the way it manifests is that if they give you something to do, they need to be sure that the competence to do it, the perseverance, the accountability, the responsibility, all of those comes. These are Judeo-Christian values. They are contemporary values of the business world today, but they came from Christian background. We don't know that. They were anchored by Judeo-Christian culture. This is who we are. So when we say we're a Christian, people know because we do a good job, we have a good character, and we are passionate and committed to whatever we do. And we work, and they can trust us. If you say you're a Christian and I have to check after you every time you've done it, at what point is it? It is the wrong thing. So the reason why that was very exciting for me is that I'm hoping that someone can say, I have found someone who lived his life according to these principles and finished well. And more importantly, he is not starving, he is not poor, he is not derelict. In other words, God provided for him. Living these values doesn't consign you to penury. It's a lie. If anything, it makes your blessings to endure. The blessings of the Lord they are everlasting, and they will add no sorrow to it. There will be nothing missing. There will be nothing broken. You will have a good wife. You have children that are doing well. You have excellent health. You will sleep well at night because nobody is chasing you, and yet you'll be able to feed yourself. You'll be able to meet your needs. God will take care of you so long as you follow the path He has laid for us.
Thank you so much. I love how you say this man followed these principles. He's not poor. He's not a failure. He's not confined to begging. When people see you, they will be humbled. And if I take them to your house, they will go home and say, God, wherever I have missed it in excellence and competence, God, have mercy. Because you are a typical evidence that God can bless anybody. And even when your hands are straight and right. Somebody by the name Ekwele is thanking us so much for this show. The fellow is following from Germany. So this is a global platform. People are following from Germany, from Iraq, and I'm sure if I have time to read so many comments, you will discover that people are following us from different parts of the world. Now, I had told you I will ask one other question, but let me leave it. I want us to go because we have like 5 more minutes to round up, and I have not even talked about your Christian walk with God. When you were in Solution Center, the building in Solution Center today that seats 5,000 people comfortably, it's a project of so many people. So many people. If we begin to write the names of people, there are so many names that will be in that book. And so I don't want to go into mentioning names of people, lest we forget somebody's name. I want to just focus on the role that you played. You were the chairman of that the committee. As a matter of fact, as soon as we started, Pastor Langat welcomed you online and said, "Welcome our chairman." So Pastor Mrs. Langat welcomed you and said, "Welcome our chairman." So you were the chairman, but it's not about being the chairman. Pastor Prince said, when that vision to build that place came, he was skeptical. He was skeptical because being a missionary, he had seen the hardship that we had gone through, struggling to survive. He wasn't ready again to carry an extra luggage. When all the pastors that are full-time in Kenya are under his payroll, there is nobody paying them a coin from anywhere outside Kenya. He's the one that pays, and most of the money comes, if not 99%, from Solution Center Parish to take care of all these people. So he wasn't ready for an extra headache or sleepless night. It's interesting to note that it was you that was not a pastor, you were a minister, not a full pastor, you were in Coca-Cola, yet had the faith that this edifice should be built. And God used you to encourage a man of faith, but at this time he didn't have that faith that this is going to happen. I want to ask you something quickly. For years I have known you. I've known you as a quiet giver. You do a lot of things and you don't like public acknowledgement for that. You don't like even thank you. For people to, oh, thank you, Mr. Balogun, it makes you uncomfortable. And you don't care whether your name is mentioned or not mentioned. I remember during the dedication of the church in 2015, you were the chairman and you were to read a speech, which you never read because there was no time. For you, it was not an issue. God has been glorified. Let's move on. God knows those that have walked. I want to ask you how you balance your corporate life and your relevance to that extent in the kingdom, where you could spare time to be supervising physically our church building with all you have been in Coke, and yet you didn't want any thank you or public acknowledgement or anything. You did it for God and left. This will be the first time we are bringing you to the limelight of the kind of thing you did for God in Kenya. But I know that the reward you have been getting is speaking for you. But maybe there are people that are watching us, and maybe there are people that when they do things that they are not acknowledged, it becomes an offense. So I want you just to talk to the body of Christ on this service in the kingdom and how you can balance and serve with simplicity and humility, yet with deep sacrifice.
Thank you, Ma. I give the glory to God. I remember when the vision of the Solution Center, the sanctuary, struck me. It was, we had bought the land on Mbagade Way, and I was struck by just how well positioned it is, close to the military hospital. I could see what the vision that God had for putting us there. And I remember the first service we will have, I think it was some kind of convention. it rained heavily that day. We had a
I remember
small
very well.
temporary.
East African Convention, yeah.
Yeah, we were soaked. It rained, and I said to myself, that we got to build something really, really befitting for this place. That was when the desire came, and I remember that before I was made the chairman, the project had started. Some work had been done, and some money had been committed. But I remember saying to Pastor Prince that we got to do this. This place needs a bigger, more imposing building than this one. I said, for this, a lot of money. I said, yeah, but let's even he designed it, made it modular, big, and we got, I remember, a quantity surveyor to come and estimate how much it will cost. When I saw it, even my faith was shaken. But what amazed me is there was a confidence that we're not the one building the sanctuary of God. God can build his own. We're not the one building. It's not for us to know how. He will do it. And the story of that sanctuary is God really raising people to build his sanctuary. It's not about me, it's God raising people. You realize that when somebody's time is done, he raises a whole new set of people, and all that. And right before our eyes, I don't know if you ask me, where did the money come from? I don't know, but I know that every time we were in need, resources came. And it kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And right before our eyes, that edifice started coming up. So the lesson that I would say is that we should just give ourselves, if you invest in a God's project, you will never lack. It's a privilege to be able to be part of that. And the testimonies around my life after that, is something for a different show. But you never owe God, or God never owes you. Anything you do for him, he pays back multiple fold. And it's not, and when you realize that we're doing it for him, we're submitting ourselves to his work, then you've got to be careful that you don't sit there and think that you are somebody, because you're not. He's the one doing it. He's just used you. That's why anytime they want to talk about, who is the chairman, I get very uncomfortable, because it is his work, it is his glory, and he's the real doer behind the scenes.
Wow, 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 wow. What a word of wisdom. You have said, when you invest into God's project, God will pay you back. You will never lack. And I can testify that it is true. When you invest in God's project, you can never lack. Number two, you say it is a privilege. Those that know me know that even yesterday, I still spoke about it. It's a privilege. If God can actually ask you to come and do something for him, begin to thank him. Begin to thank him that he could pick you, because God has many resources. I remember the story of our general overseer when they were developing the camp, the redemption camp in Nigeria. Things were tough. And there was this particular man of God that had a lot of money, and we were together in the same parish. I know the man very well. He owns a beautiful supermarket in Lagos, and he was very comfortable. So the Lord asked that you to tell that man to do something for God in the camp, so that the Geo approached the man and said, "This is what God told me. That you should do ABCD." The man said that the Geo, give me time to pray. Let me go and see God's face. While the man was busy praying, God by fasting, because God did not have time. God knew that man had what it will take. So he didn't need to pray. He didn't need to seek God's face. So God bypassed him and raised another fellow who came and did everything that that man was supposed to do. By the time the man came back to that Gio and say, I have finished praying, can I now do it? That the Gio said, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
It's been
God, that is already finished. Daddy has already done the job. The man said what? He said that he has finished the job. What else can I do? That the Gio said, there's nothing you can do. It was what he asked me to ask you to do that I told you. But while you were seeking his face, he picked someone else. Do you know how that man is paying for that thing up to today? The man decided to go and live in the camp, to be managing camp. That is, he says, I will, for all the rest of my life, whatever I can do, God, to redeem this my error, I will do it. He's an elderly man now, very elderly. He's an elder, an ordained elder. We respect him a lot in church. We see him when we go for meetings. He's ever there. He's still paying. He is still paying. This thing happened many years ago, but this man is still paying. It is a terrible thing for God to give you an assignment and tell you do it, and you are busy saying, I am praying, I am thinking about it, and while you are alive, God picks up somebody and tell, and now when you come, God says, sorry, that job has been done. God forbid. Right. So I think this show is bringing together so many things, and he's talking about career, and he's talking about the kingdom, because the two cannot be separated. The two cannot be separated. Pastor Chris is saying, all we have come from God. We should give back a part of it to the Almighty God. It's not even just part. There are times God says, oh, we should give all. We should give all that we have received from the Lord. Then God can now tell you, you can return this. You can return. When God came to Abraham, he asked for all. He said, give me your son, the only son you have, give it to me. And he didn't even struggle, he gave him. So we are thanking God for the way God is enriching us. Today, you have made it clear. People come and go. People come and go. And this is what that Pastor Prince talked about in our show the other time. And one thing he has planned after 25 years of mission work is that we are all acting on the stage of life. When your stage comes, you go. Someone else acts. So it is very important that that's your part. You play it very well. Very well. And how we exit is very important. We need to exit honorably in a way that we can invite back to inspire the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that this show continues next Sunday with my own blood cousin, who is a serious dynamite. Last year or so, she hosted PLO Lumumba in Nigeria. PLO Lumumba was her guest in her foundation. She sponsors young children. She mentors young children. There was a time she won an award. She came to Kenya to be given an award at Serena Hotel. You will need to hear some of the things she has done, and yet a single mother, a widow. So you need to get inspired next Sunday. Don't miss the show next Sunday. And when you see our flyers, please help us to share it massively. Don't forget our prayer tomorrow, 8 p.m. Don't forget Starting the Gap Friday, 8 p.m. Don't forget the gathering of stars and queens on Saturday. The theme of the meeting will be Beauty for Ashes. So make sure you join us on Saturday, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We are far gone beyond our time, but it works it. So as we begin to wrap this up, Mr. Balogun, I will tell you one story. I hope you will say one or two things from there, and we now call it a night. You told me that of all the places you have been in terms of your career, Kenya remains the best, that gave you the best memory. Anytime you look back to your career, Kenya was the best for you. And I know that majority of our audience tonight are Kenyans. And I'm sure they will really love to know, why is it that you live in other countries, but Kenya was the best for you? Can you say something? Why is it the best for you?
Well, thank you. People, when I was in Kenya, Kenya was home. We grew up with all the good things that happened to me, from a career perspective. Most of them, the major ones, happened while I was in Kenya. My children, they literally became aware of themselves, in Kenya. In fact, we had to tell them, you're not Kenyan. They went to elementary school, in Karen, and they grew up in Kenya. And, just the hospitality of Kenyans, this very difficult to define characteristic whereby you just feel at home. I cracked a joke once. I still have many friends in Kenya, and whenever I want to kind of relax, I come over to Kenya. I moved back to Nigeria in 2018. And I think right after I got back, I went to Kenya on a visit, on a business visit. And as soon as I landed at JKIA, I felt like I'd been on a trip, that I was just coming back home. And driving through town, I felt like that everywhere else I'd been was like a journey, that I was really, really connecting back home for the first time. I don't know, it's very difficult to define. It's just that we felt at home. We loved the country. Because I was country manager for many years as well, I know every part of Kenya. And most of my friends, because I lived close to 10 years in Kenya, most of my friends, adult friends, are Kenyans, either Kenyans or people I met in Kenya. So you forgive me, but it's going to always be a country in a special place in my life and in my heart.
I'm yet to see anybody who lived in Kenya and left and said, no, I did not like Kenya. I am yet to see one. Everyone who lived in this country, when they go and you meet them, you ask them, they say, oh, Kenya was home. Kenya was beautiful. Kenya was sweet. And I think that's why we must continue to pray for this nation, Kenya, because it actually has provided a beautiful, serene place for many people to grow their careers. It is a peaceful environment, every nation has their own pluses and minuses. But we thank God for the beautiful nation. And Pastor Prince is saying, Father Kelvin, thank you very much for great insights. And there are so many comments, and some people say they work with you. Some say you train them, you mentor them. I don't know how many I'm going to read. There are so many. I hope you will find time to yourself, when you have time, to go back. There is from Evangelist Faith Wairimu. I need to read this one. This is from the ministry of Evangelist Faith Wairimu. I think it's either her or her official Facebook that is saying, powerful testimony on the construction of Solution Center. Very true. God doesn't owe anyone, and it is a privilege to serve. This sounds like the voice of Evangelist Wairimu herself. This sounds like her. So she's saying true, because she also has a mega church, and she's saying it is a privilege for anybody to serve God or to be recruited into the workforce. Thank you so much, Evangelist Faith Wairimu. Thank you so much for being a blessing to us and watching us tonight. And there are so many that I don't know how to read tonight, but I think I will stop here. What we will do, Bro Kelvin, is that if you don't really mind, we will schedule you sometime in the future to come and help train us again, because there are many people that are career people on this platform. There is a bank manager here who is saying, that's Perry. She's saying very powerful advice. Growth is indeed a process. Now, how do you handle, she said, how do you handle when you find yourself in the wrong leadership, but you want to uphold your integrity? You see, this fellow is saying, what do you do when you are under a wrong leadership and you want to uphold your integrity? And this is not part of the things I taught them in the workers' meeting yesterday. I was telling them the things they should, when they see in a church, they must never leave that church. And things when they see in a church, they are free to leave that place. And one of the things I talked about is ungodly leadership and godly leadership. I said, somebody like me, it is absolutely impossible for me to submit to an ungodly leadership. Because over the years, if you have trained yourself on accountability, discipline, responsibility, all those things, and you're under a leadership that doesn't value those things, how does somebody like me, how do you survive? And that is the question this fellow is asking, and we are not able to answer tonight. Sorry, because of time. Actually, people have so many questions for you here that we are not able to answer. So do me a favor, because you said one of your passions is to see Africa change. And what your company is doing now is to mentor other people to leave a legacy. Social platform is one of the most important and relevant classrooms today, where you talk to the whole world, apart from other people you talk to locally. And so we need to bring you on board, perhaps to run a training, just a formal training that can help high profile people navigate through their careers. Then people that are coming up, what they can stand on, to be able to be established. So I want you to promise this audience that you are coming back. And the audience, if you are agreeing with me that we need a training where he will now answer all these questions, and we'll be throwing the question. There is somebody here saying, Chichoke is saying, you are a bundle of experience. So this experience should not be localized in Nigeria or localized somewhere. The people watching us tonight, they want to leave also legacies. So kindly, if you don't mind, we want to bring you back. And those of you on social media, if you want him back, begin to test. Yay, yay, we want him back. Yay, we want him back. And this time when he's coming back, he's coming to run a training. It will be like a 45 minutes training. I tell you what he did for us at Crown Plaza. Some of the things I learned from his teaching from Crown Plaza Hotel, I am still using it in the ministry. And of course, thank God that I also train the corporate. I train people in the corporate organizations. And these are some of the things that we acquire from people like you, put it in the kingdom perspective, and we go far. So I think at this point, we will be ending this show. And the audience, I want you to say thank you to Mr. Balogun for sharing. Somebody who has worked for something years cannot share his experience in a 1-hour show. It is not possible. Somebody that is running a company that is also dealing with people like Dangote, he cannot tell us what they are doing here in 1 hour. So we are saying he needs to come back and run a training for us. Mrs. Jumoke Saile is saying, please, sir, we want you back. Please, sir, we want you back. So please help the world through this show to be a blessing, inspiring the next generation and your colleagues also on this platform. Thank you so much, Mr. Balogun. Just give us in 30 seconds your parting shot.
Well, thank you. Let's walk the walk. Let's not lose faith. These are very difficult times, and it's very easy to sell ourselves short and believe, the negative narrative that is swirling all around us. I believe that this is the dawn of an amazing time. So let's sign up for it. let's trust God. Let's believe in His ability to transform our lives and in His promises. And I'm sure that everything we've ever placed in His hands will come to pass. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you for the opportunity to.
That you will come back.
Yes, absolutely. I'm giving the commitment that once the platform is set, I'll be more than happy to be part of it.
Excellent. There is something about you, Mr. Balogun, that I would like you to tell us in the next show. You are a strategic expert. Your expertise is so much on strategy. And you know the Bible says by strategy we can win the war. So the war of the marketplace, how do you strategize your business, your career, your idea? What is in your mind to make it clear? Hey, oh my God, I can't wait for your show, the next training. Pauline is saying you should pass her love to Sister Joyce Balogun. And I also want to say, pass my love to Sister Joyce. And I know the family, the children are not with you, but I'm sure maybe they will find time to watch this. And you also pass our regards to them and tell them that we are proud of their parents. And thank you so much for this show. I will now let you know later the next time we will have you on board for training. And it will be a great impact that you will make upon our lives. Everybody will come with notebooks, with biros, so that you can teach us, especially on strategic career building. And I believe that it will be a blessing. Thank you once again. Have a beautiful week and see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
God bless you, and thanks to our fans.